In this segment, we're going to take a look at cut, copy, paste, and duplicate functions. So to start off, I'll just point out at the top of our workspace, on the top toolbar, we have the cut, copy, and paste buttons. Now the way it works, first of all, you need to select something and either cut it or copy it to put it onto your imaginary clipboard. And then when you click on paste, it pastes that down and onto your workspace. So for example, if I select on this yellow shape right here, now I have the ability to either choose cut or copy, and basically both cut and copy will place this yellow shape onto our imaginary clipboard. The difference is cut will actually remove the original from the design, whereas this copy will just keep the object on our design and add it to the clipboard to be able to paste it later. So for example, if I choose copy and then choose paste, notice now in my resequence toolbar that I have the original yellow object, which was actually the first object in my design, but when I click paste, of course it adds the newest object to the end. And so you can see clearly that there's two yellow objects and they're both exactly on top of each other. So when you paste something, it pastes it down in exactly the same place. Now I could click and drag to separate those two so you can see that there's two. Now, for example, that yellow shape is still on my clipboard. If I hit paste, I make another yellow object and I can bring that one down here. And if I hit paste again, guess what? I got another one. So you just keep adding them as you say paste. So that's the copy and paste. Now, cut would be more or less the same. If I selected the first yellow shape and chose the cut feature, it removes it from my toolbar or from my design altogether, and it places that same shape onto my clipboard, which I could then paste back in. So that's copy, cut, copy, and paste. Now, duplicate, for example, if I choose this orange rectangular square, and if I wanted to duplicate this object, which is more or less the same as saying copy and paste, however, I have the function under the Edit drop-down menu to duplicate it, and it's here. There's a hotkey called Control D to duplicate it. And if I click on that now, again, I get a second copy of exactly the same square down here. It's just a one step versus two, really, for the difference between copy and paste and duplicate. So for example, if I just click on a shape, why don't I click on this red circle and then use Control D on my keyboard, it duplicates it. And now you can see the last object in the sequence is that red circle. And it's shown here. So that's duplicate. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about with duplicates is under the Setup drop-down menu, under Work Environment, there's a tab, and the tab says Edit, and it's about duplicates. When you make a duplicate, right now, the duplicate object will be placed in the object position. But we can change that to shift the duplicate. And so right now, the shift is set at 3 millimeters X and 3 millimeters Y. And if I say OK, so now for example, if I click on this orange square, I didn't want the object properties, click on the orange, click on this orange square right here, and say Control D on my keyboard, it made a duplicate, and it shifted the duplicate by 3 millimeters X and Y, so that I would know that I had duplicated it. And if I kept saying Control D, it duplicates it over and over again. So that's kind of interesting there, isn't it? And another thing about that duplicate is, other than using Control D to duplicate, there's another way to duplicate an object. And for example, if I was to right-click and drag over top of this orange square, see how I get, it's like I'm moving the square, but there's a small plus that's shown in the center of that, and if I let go, it makes a duplicate. So if I left-click and drag, I move something. If I right-click and drag, I make a duplicate of it. So that's another way that you can very quickly duplicate an object. So I guess just as an example, if I left click on this, I can move it. If I right click and drag, I duplicate it. And this is something interesting too. So for example, Maybe I'm just going to zoom out a little bit here. So Shift Z. And why don't we move this square right here? Oh, I didn't want to do that. I keep double clicking. If I left click and drag my square and bring it over here. Now, I'm going to right click and drag to make a new square, and it's going to be directly below the last square. Now the software actually remembers that duplicate that I just made, and now if I go Control D on my keyboard, instead of just setting it the 3 millimeters offset like it was here, it actually makes the duplicates with that matching distance that I made for the previous one. So isn't that interesting? So for example, if I just click on one of these and then say Control D, it duplicates it in that 3 millimeters up and 3 millimeters over. But if you click on, and I'll do the purple one for example, if I select that purple and right click and drag to duplicate it, and I'm going to bring it over and down to the left. And I'll just hide the hoop here. Now if I go Control D, it actually adds the new one over and down to the left by the same amount. So that's kind of interesting, little twist to the control and duplicate. You can use it to create nice alignments as well. So yeah, so that's a little bit more about how to use cut, copy, paste, and duplicate, and how you can control the duplicates as well.